Strong fourth quarter numbers, strong guidance for coming into this year as well. I mean, perhaps not that surprising given the fact that we know the pandemic has been a boon for outdoor activities, people wanting to get out of their houses. And we see that translating into Polaris's numbers with growth really across the board. How do you expect that to continue? How will you continue to fuel that demand this year?
Well, the growth that we saw coming out of last year was really accelerating as we got into the back half. Now, we've put a relatively conservative forecast together. We think retail for the year is going to be down in 2020, about 8%. But when you look back to 2019, we're actually up about 15%. So we're accounting for the fact that there was a surge that really started in Q2 of 2020, where we saw our retail up about 57%. Look, the consumer is strong. And, as these lockdowns and the delay in the vaccine rollout happen, people continue to turn to the outdoors. And we're incredibly well positioned, whether it's boats, snowmobiles, or off-road vehicles and motorcycles. And, we see that continue to play out. On the call today, I made a comment about, even though we have retail projected to be down for the year, January retail, although it is a small part of the year, is significantly outpacing our expectations. So, I think that's a good sign to start off the year.
I want to get into that more in just a second. But the other piece of the puzzle here is the supply side. Dealer inventories down 58%, lowest level in decades. Is that just a product of how strong the demand is, or is this also supply chain constraints given the interruptions we saw at production lines last year due to COVID?
Well, it's actually a little bit of both. Back when the COVID surge started to happen, we either voluntarily or involuntarily had to shut down a number of our manufacturing facilities. And so, we had our plants down anywhere from, 2 weeks to a month and a half. And once we were able to get back up and running, the plants have been running at full tilt, but the surge in demand at our dealerships had already happened. And so we were starting to play catch up from the start. And then we also saw disruptions starting in our supply base. A lot of our suppliers had to ramp up 2-3-fold just to keep up with the pace of our volume. We've had to step in a couple of instances to help them through that process. And then I think, as many others have probably talked about on your show, we continue to see higher freight rates. The ports are jammed. In fact, we were hopeful that this year things would start to improve. And in fact, we see the port situation worsening a little bit. And so we're running around the clock trying to make sure that we can get as much product into the field to make sure our dealers have what they can to sell.
Mike, it was a terrific quarter, market share growth across the board. I mean, really very, very impressive, especially in the face of the supply constraints that you were just talking about. So I guess my question is, do you think that the market share growth that you're seeing in North America and as well in all the products, is that going to continue at the pace that it already is doing now? Or how do you forecast for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's our plan. I think early on in the year, some of our competitors really benefited from the fact that they had way too much inventory in the channel, and we were in a process of trying to rebuild that inventory. Fourth quarter was really when everybody was playing on a level playing field, and I think you saw the difference in the scale and the operating performance of our company. We use what's called retail flow management, the system we put in place over the last couple of years. And it's really geared at making sure that we can get dealers the product they need quickly. Steve Minetto, who runs our off-road vehicle business, did a terrific job with his team working through a lot of other mechanisms to be able to make sure we got product to dealers, meaning we could identify product at different dealerships and move it around the region. We activated a more aggressive pre-sold. So essentially about 5% of our product would leave the factory pre-sold. Now that number is closer to 30%. That allows the dealer to be able to capture the sale and the consumer to be able to see when they're going to get access to their product. And then really on the supply chain side, I think we have the best team in power sports that can tackle all the issues we have. And that really showed up in how fast we were able to deliver product from our factories to the dealers to ensure they were able to move it to the customer.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.